All right, let's get started. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's virtual panel on BC's academic research and just academic experience as well. This is part of a weekly collection of panels that are designed to kind of give prospective high school students a look into specific niches that really make BC what it is today. So this kind of collection of panels is put on every single week for 7 weeks or so. We're on week 2, and it is designed by the Student Admission Program. My name is Jackie Geller, and I'm one of the creators of these panels. As a little intro, I am a senior at Boston College, where I major in communication in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, and I minor in finance in our Carroll School of Management. And I'm originally from Manalapan, New Jersey. As you can tell, I am not alone. I am joined by 4 other undergraduates as well as 1 BC faculty member who are really excited to talk about their experiences and also answer any questions that you may have. Before I turn it over to them, I'm just going to give a little overview of what our time is going to look like. So I will give a brief introduction about our academics at BC. Then I'll have our panelists give their introductions, and then we'll have a Q&A portion. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A button. And if you click on it, you can submit your questions if you have any throughout the next 45 minutes or so. So if you have any questions right now on the top of your head, feel free to type them in and we'll try to get to as many as possible. So some general info about Boston College. BC is honestly like no other school in Boston, first of all. We are not in Boston. We are actually in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, and we are not even a college. We are a university. We are specifically a Jesuit Catholic university, and this really influences the way that students learn at our school. We have a lot of reflection, and especially reflection in education. So you'll see in a lot of your classes that you take at BC, a lot of your professors, they'll give you the information. That's great if you retain the information, but then they're going to ask you, how do you take what you learn in the classroom and how are you able to kind of implement that into the social issues that humanity faces today? And it's a lot of engagement, a lot of reflection. On top of that, we have a very, very, very popular Jesuit motto on campus called Cura Personalis, which translates to care of the whole person, or in terms of education, educating the whole person. So we do have a core curriculum at BC. It is a set of subjects that all students at BC must take in order to graduate. This can be your natural sciences, social sciences, English, math, all those different kinds of things. And it really just evens out to a well-rounded education, which is really awesome at BC. BC is composed of around 9,300 undergraduate students. And when you apply here, you will be asked which school you want to go into. So we have our Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. This is our largest school. It also houses the majority of the majors at Boston College. So this has our natural sciences all the way to our theater major. It also has our newest major, which is human-centered engineering. This is our newest program. It's really, really exciting. This year we enrolled 33 freshmen, and next year we hope to enroll 50 freshmen. We also have our more specified pre-professional programs. So there is the Carroll School of Management, we have our Lynch School of Education and Human Development, and we also have our Connell School of Nursing. The last thing I'm going to touch upon is that Boston College is a Tier 1 research institute. So when I applied to BC, I actually had no idea what Tier 1 meant. Tier 1, essentially, only 3% of colleges in the nation are Tier 1. This essentially means that the majority, if not all, of the professors at Boston College are doing research, and we also have all of the resources on campus to do research. And I really love this. It's a great benefit for our liberal arts students because you don't just have to be a science major or a nursing major to do research. I personally do research for the communication department at our school, and I think a lot of students can say the same in terms of their major. There's a lot of opportunities to take advantage of. So that is a little overview of BC. I'm going to turn it over to our panelists right now. They're going to give a little intro again, just introduce themselves to you guys. So let's start with Bella.
Hi, everyone. My name's Bella. I'm a junior here at Boston College. I am a nursing major in the Connell School of Nursing, and I'm from Milford, Connecticut.
Awesome. Thanks, Bella. I do have a question for you. So being a nursing major, which is absolutely awesome, can you like at least list off a couple of special opportunities that nursing students can take advantage of at BC?
Sure. I would say one of the best things about being a nursing student at BC is the small community, but also we get an academic advisor assigned to us our freshman year who remains our advisor for the remainder of our 4 years. So you get to build a really special relationship with them. So that's something unique about being a nursing student at BC.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Bella. We can move on to B Joy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joy. I'm a senior in the Carroll School of Management, studying finance and entrepreneurship. And then I have a minor in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences in managing for social impact and the public good. I'm originally from Glen Ellyn, Illinois.
All right, awesome. So B-Joy, you are a perfect example of a student who really takes advantage of the education that's offered through the Carroll School of Management. As I mentioned, that is one of my pre-professional programs at BC. A question that I have for you that a lot of students ask is it super easy to just transfer into the Carroll School of Management after you come into BC? Like, let's say one day a freshman wakes up on week 2 and they're just like, I'm in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, but I want to go into the Carroll School of Management. Like, is it that easy to kind of switch into that? Can you give us a little bit of information about that?
Sure, it's definitely not easy. So I would recommend that if you have any inkling in studying business, then I'd recommend applying directly to the Carroll School of Management. If you are unsure after you apply into the Carroll School and you get in, you can automatically switch out to the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, but it's a lot more challenging to switch into the Carroll School just because we have a rigorous core curriculum aside from the core of the university, and that core starts your first semester freshman year.
Thank you. And now we can start with Kirsten.
Hi guys, I'm Kirsten. I am also a senior in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, and I'm studying math, and I also have a minor in environmental geoscience, and I am originally from Chicago, Illinois.
Beautiful. Okay, so Kirsten, my question for you is I love coming across students at BC who have such like a duality when it comes to their majors and their minors. And I think that for all of our listeners today, like I think that environmental geoscience and math are two things that might not go hand in hand at first. So how did you come across this? Like, did you take a class at BC that kind of interested you in one subject that you kind of were like, let me add on to this? Or did you come into BC knowing that you wanted to study these two subjects?
Yeah, so I think I was like sort of the last one in my class to decide my major. I think I decided on a math major like March of my sophomore year, which is totally okay, but I was really freaking out. But I came in undecided for about 2 years, and I took biology classes and I took math classes, and I really liked the math classes, so I stuck with that. And I liked the biology classes, but I wanted to do something more environmental based because I took this class called Ecology and Evolution, which was super, super cool. And I really liked the more ecology part of it. So I took this class called Earth Materials, and I really fell in love with geoscience. So I stuck with that.
Amazing. All right, Sherry.
Hi everyone, I'm Sherry and I'm a senior in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. I'm double majoring in applied psychology and human development and sociology, and I'm also double minoring in communication and restorative justice. And I'm originally from Long Island, New York.
Awesome, Sherry. All right, so my question for you, which we get a lot from students as well, is it intimidating to declare a extra minor? I know that a lot of students think like it's going to be this long line and it's a very like daunting office that you just walk into, and it's like you have to sit down with a pen and paper and kind of declare your major and sign a contract or something like that. But like, what has your experience been like when it comes to that?
It's been the opposite of that. So in Lynch, you're actually required to double major or minor. So they make it so easy for you to do that. There's not usually a long process or anything. You can even major or minor across schools. So my sociology double major is in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. So I honestly don't really know that many people that are just a single major. It's super common for people to be double majoring or minoring in something.
Right, awesome, thanks, Sherry. And as I mentioned before, everyone, we are joined by a BC faculty member as well. So I would love it if Professor Wesner can introduce himself.
Thank you, Jackie. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Wesner. I teach business law in the Carroll School of Management, and I also direct a program called the Catalyst Program. I have been at BC for about 15 years, and I went to BC as an undergraduate, and I also received my doctorate at Boston College. And I tell you what, it's just such a great place to be. It's really a joy to teach at Boston College. Every student you've heard from tonight would sound like students in any random class that I'm assigned to teach. They're articulate, they're passionate, they care about our mission, and it's just such a great place. One other thing, I direct the Catalyst program, which is a program for liberal arts students in our Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, or Cannell School of Nursing, or the Lynch School of Education, who want to take essentially what is maybe considered business boot camp. It's an 8-week program in the summer, a 10-credit program for students who might be considering a minor in business, or who just want to get their feet wet and get exposed to the major functional areas of business. And the last thing I'd say in my introductory comment is, unlike many, Jackie talked about, a research university, unlike other research universities that maybe don't have a Jesuit Ignatian mission, we put mission at the forefront of what we do. And so when we talk to our students about using their education for others, and that being primary, not for themselves, but to make our world a better place, they really embrace that. And we try and integrate that in our teaching, in our service programs, and in the formation work we do with all of our students. So I'm glad to have everybody joining us. Back to you, Jackie.
Yeah, so you actually touched upon kind of a little bit of what I'm about to ask you right now, which is, as I mentioned before, we are a Jesuit Catholic institution, and we are all about that well-rounded education and our students really getting the most out of the classes that they take. So I was wondering, because I've never actually been in a class with you, but like, what is your teaching style like? Do you see yourself bringing in topics or aspects into the classroom that really identify with the educational philosophy that our university is built upon?
Well, that's a great question, and it's a question I think that should be asked to all of us at BC, and it's one that we take seriously. So my answer is yes. I think that content alone, students aren't here just for content, right? Content can be learned online. So we think that there has to be something that's distinctive and purposeful and transformational about the in-person classroom experience, right? So I think that maybe, a current event. I mean, so I teach business law, and within that discipline, there's agencies. We study agencies of government. And so yesterday, or Monday, with the Facebook shutdown, I brought in, current events, and we looked at, corporate governance questions. Should Facebook have self-reported some of these issues that had come up that are very serious issues to the Securities and Exchange Commission, related to data that the corporate officers appear to have known about practices and, maybe a business plan that they knew were leading to harms, right, towards young people. And what is a corporate officer's responsibility? And why does this matter? And who are we most serving? And how do we care for our customers and clients in a way that puts their well-being before profits? And I tell you, I had out of 40 students, I had 32 hands up, right? Our students wanted to go on that one. And so we try and always connect content to the real lives of our students, the world we're living in, and people on the margins in particular, and to be good, ethical nurses and educators and teachers and managers and all the fields we focus on and train for at BC.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I actually had 2 classes in the past 24 hours, one on anti-social media and one on finance, and both professors also brought up the situation as well and asked how it related to our class. So Wonderful. Great to hear that you're doing that as well. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to the Q&A. Again, I do see questions coming in. Absolutely delightful. I'm really excited to get to these. And again, if you have any questions throughout the hour, feel free to submit them as well. So we have this one question about what has been your largest class at BC. Anyone can answer this. I will say that at Boston College, the average class size is around 25 to 27 students, but it can be a lot smaller or it can be a lot larger, depending on what classes you take at BC. But again, if anyone wants to shed some light on that, that would be great.
I can answer that. My largest class was probably microeconomics, which is now just introduction to economics. It was about, I would say 300 people. It was in one of our larger lecture halls. But I think the part that I liked about that class was, although we had that large lecture hall where the professor was lecturing us about economics, we had a smaller discussion section on Wednesday mornings, which was only 20 students. And so any class at BC over 60 students will have a smaller discussion section associated with it. And that really just helps you connect with the material a little bit better and connect with the teaching assistant or some members in your class to just make sure you're understanding the material and not getting lost in the big, large lecture hall that you're being taught in.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Bjoy. I do see a question in here about study abroad. It has been quite popular with our panels lately. I will say that you are speaking to a panel that is mostly seniors who sadly have gotten their abroads taken away due to COVID, but we do have I'd say we have a general amount of information about study abroad. And also, Bella, you're a junior, so I don't know if you're planning on going abroad or if you know people who are going abroad and can also speak to that as well. That'd be great.
I'm not going abroad, unfortunately, just like a personal decision, but I do have some friends who are abroad currently, and they're certainly enjoying it. I think the application process through, I believe the office has a different name now, but through international programs is very easy. I was able to like fill out the application process without like a lot of struggle or stress, and kind of deciding whether or not to go was more on me rather than the program. And I had a lot of flexibility into making that decision and just making it by a deadline. So that was nice.
I actually had the opportunity to go abroad between my freshman and sophomore year. So we also have summer programs available for students. So I knew that I didn't want to go for a full semester during my junior year, which is typically when students go. So I went between my freshman and sophomore year to Dublin, Ireland. And I spent 3 weeks learning how to program an app with Professor John Gallagher. I think that was a really cool experience because they planned trips throughout the 3 weeks aside from our class that we were going to every day. So we got to jump in like this mud pit, which is apparently native to Ireland. We were able to go to a bunch of cafes and hear some live music, learn how to play the flute. That was pretty fun. And then we also went to see a soccer match and everything. So I think BC does a really good job of making sure that there's lots of opportunities. Obviously, lots of them were not happening because of COVID, but this semester we do have students abroad. And from what I hear and see, they're having a great time.
All right, thanks everyone. Another question, we're actually getting a couple questions on this, but undergraduate research. Does anyone here on this panel like to talk about that?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So I am an undergraduate research assistant. And as I mentioned before, I'm in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. So I genuinely thought that research was kind of reserved for more STEM related majors. I was so glad to see that there were a lot of research opportunities as an undergraduate and also as someone who's studying applied psychology. So right now I'm doing research under the psych and neuroscience department, actually. And we're doing infant and child cognition, so looking at gender stereotypes and at what age they arise, especially in math and spatial abilities. So that's been a huge part of my BC experience. It's a job, but also like such an edge in on your resume, because being involved in research is going to be such a huge competitive edge on your application for grad school or for jobs. And I always get asked about it. So it's definitely easy to get involved in research. Like Jackie mentioned, we are a tier 1 research university. So a lot of our professors outside of STEM are involved in research as well.
All right, awesome. And I love this next question. Again, anyone can answer this, but it is, have any specific classes or teachers impacted you significantly, specifically regarding your growth of your character? I love this question. This is like a very BC question. So anyone can take it away with this one. I can also get us started. I know it's a very difficult question to think about, but I can say there are countless professors that have been absolutely phenomenal. For me, it was my freshman year. I took a freshman topic seminar, which is like a very small class with only 14 freshmen. And it was by Professor Robert Stanton. And he was actually my academic advisor. And what happened was my freshman year, I came in just a communication major. And I eventually added a political science major my spring semester freshman year. Then I had an academic advising meeting with him beginning of my sophomore year. And he asked me, how are your majors going? And I said, I love my communication major. I like my political science major. And he said, if you like it and you don't love it, stop it. Like, you have to do something else. Like, your time in college is so rare that you have to just take advantage of what you have here. So he said, what are your thoughts on math? And at the time I was a communication major, so I wasn't really focused on numbers and things like that, but I could do numbers. So I said, it's doable. And he said, let's put you in a finance minor, which is 100% not what I wanted to hear. But I was like, you know what? Let's try something new. And I ended up loving it. And I've stuck with that ever since sophomore year, all the way to now. I'm a first semester senior now. I'll be graduating with that minor. And it's just something that was absolutely great for him to kind of suggest that for me. Anyone else want to share, Professor?
I can share. So mine is actually a little bit of a different story, but last semester, so second semester, sophomore year, as a nursing student, you have to take pharmacology, which is basically learning about drugs, like their mechanism of action and any side effects. And although this is a very like scientific and factual based class, my professor, her name's Jacqueline Sly, did a really, really, really amazing job of incorporating information about different health disparities while teaching this very like objective information, but also kind of educating us on broader aspects of being a nurse and being a well culturally sensitive nurse. So that was something that has been really impactful on my BC journey and also my development as a BC nurse.
That is so fantastic. All right, this next question, I'm kind of like going to break it into a two-pronged question. So it'll be first targeted for Professor Wesner, but the question is just, how is the academic environment at Boston College? So maybe just kind of go into what it's like academically, or how many exams students have to take, or things like that.
So I think that I would say that generally the academic environment could be described as rigorous, as demanding, maybe with a heart, and so the students that come to Boston College, at a highly selective college, are extremely well prepared, and they demonstrated strong records in high school, and they challenged themselves and took difficult classes. It's not that they have to get A's, but they challenged themselves. And so we find that our students come to class ready to engage. They do the work. I had a class this afternoon at 4:30, and I asked a question about two cases we read. One we were finishing last week, and we started last week, we finished today. And I said, how can these two cases be read together? How are they similar? How are they different? And I had 18 hands go up in the air, or 20. I mean, so our students prepare, they work hard, they come ready, they do their work, and they care about their studies. They in a typical class, I think there would be maybe a paper due, a reflection, a midterm, and a final. Maybe some professors would have 2 midterms, some would have 3, and then a final. And maybe in some classes, a group project, or 2 or 3, depending on the class. But maybe in each of the 5 classes a student would take per semester, there's probably 4 assessments. The student panelists would probably nod if they think that's about average, but maybe about 4 assessments or 5. I'm not so sure about nursing, but demanding and rigorous, but with a heart, right? So we're not going to assign, something due generally, the day would go on Easter break or something,
Yes, thank you so much. I completely agree, at least from my perspective. I would say that I think in high school all the time I would just be cramming for exams nonstop because that's how it was in high school, like test nonstop. And I think that at BC you kind of have a little bit more freedom. Again, panelists, feel free to nod if you feel like that's correct as well. But it's like you feel like you're learning a little bit more and doing less of the exams because you're spending that class time taking notes, learning, doing lectures, having discussions and things like that. The way that I'm going to kind of split this up, again, is for my panelists. A question that we typically get asked on tours and panels is, do you think that the BC student body is more competitive or more collaborative when it comes to classes? So if anyone wants to jump on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So I found that my high school was super competitive, and I knew that I did not want that in my college experience. And I'm really glad that BC has not been that for me. It's been very collaborative, especially since I'm in the Winch School. It's really small, and I pretty much know everyone by now because it's senior year. So it's so nice having people kind of all want to work together. And when you're in college, you honestly realize that being successful is not a zero-sum game. There's not a limited number of people who graduate from BC and who can be successful. Everyone here is given the tools to do that. And I found that to be really refreshing coming from high school.
Go ahead, Kirsten.
Sorry, I didn't know whether to raise my hand on Zoom or in person, but I completely agree with Sherry. And I have like a horror story from high school. One time, the teacher was collecting homework and someone like ripped up somebody else's homework because they didn't want them to ruin the curve or something. Completely crazy. And I know that's sort of like an outlier story, but I just compare it to my experience at BC, and everyone is sincerely so nice and so welcoming in classes. Like, honestly, some of my best friends are from people that just said hi to me when I sat down first day of class. Like, people will say hi to you, next to you, like just make study groups so easily. They're very, very nice in class, which is really nice.
Awesome. And the next question is actually targeted for Kirsten, which I love. So we have a student who is interested in majoring in math, but they are conflicted about double minoring, in environmental geoscience or computer science. And they're asking about like those kinds of resources. And I think that it's going to kind of go for everyone as well who's looking into like a different minor from what they're majoring in. Like, what are the resources that you have on campus? Are you able to talk to the Career Center, professors, other students who maybe are in that major or minor? Have you like had any experiences like that?
Yeah, wait, so they're interested in majoring in math and also minoring in environmental geoscience or computer science? Okay, so just one I want to say first, I have one of my really good friends is double majoring in math in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences and computer science in the Carroll School of Management, and totally doable. And I think, first of all, I think computer science and math really overlap a lot. There's this class that you have to take as a math major, whether you do BA or BS, called Intro to Abstract Mathematics. And it's a lot of coding. And first it sounded really daunting, but it's actually really fun. And I think that made me like the computer science aspects a lot more. So I think that'd be really cool if you did both. And also I want to plug the Career Center because they're so nice there. I did this program called Endeavor my sophomore year, and basically you come back, I think about 3 days earlier from winter break. It's the start of the second semester, and it's for people that might not have like a very specific like career path or career goals, and especially being undecided for about 2 years and being in the liberal arts school. I have like a roommate who's a business major, and she has very much like very clear goals, and I was always admired her, but I didn't have that about myself. So I wanted to do Endeavor, and the Career Center led it. And I remember going in the first day of Endeavor and being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I also need clothes for like these like tours that I'm going to go on. And they have super cool. They have like a closet that you can get 2 free items per semester. So they gave me a blazer for interviews. They also gave me a really like pretty dress for interviews, which I think is so nice. And you literally just walk into the Career Center and they're so willing to help. Sometimes you don't even need you don't need to like have an appointment with anybody. And 3 people come up to me and they're like, what do you need help with? So shout out to the Career Center. They're amazing. And that's not even just for math majors, for anybody and in any school. They are so helpful.
I'm so glad that you touched upon the Career Center at BC. It is open to all 4 grades at Boston College for undergraduates, so you can definitely take advantage of that starting your freshman year. Talking about our Career Center, I think that this is a great transition to kind of have a little question about internships, opportunities, and things like that. Just a little overview. BC has probably the strongest alumni network I have ever seen in my entire life. If you wear a Boston College shirt into the airport, which I have done multiple times, you will get someone who screams at you and says, "Go Eagles." Additionally, we are in the midst of our football season right now. So countless alumni come back all the time. So it's really great to have that environment as alumni, but it's also great as a professional standpoint as well. So the question I'm going to have ask for all of you is, have any of you had wonderful experiences with the Career Center, or have you had any like resources or connections with BC alumni that have been very helpful throughout your years here so far?
Yeah, I can get started, and then I'm sure other people have stories as well. But sophomore year, I took a class called Tech Trek West, and that was probably one of my favorite classes I took, aside from Professor Wesner's business law class, of course. But Tech Trek is a 2-part course where in the first part, we learn all about technology and the intersections it has with finance and consulting and healthcare, and a lot of other things. And then the second part, we go on a field study to Silicon Valley, and we visit BC alumni at startup companies like a bunch of startup companies I can't remember right now, but we also visited Google and Facebook and Apple, and some venture capital firms as well. And so I think one thing that experience taught me was that BC alumni are fully willing to take time out of their day, their busy workday working at Google, and come and speak to this random class of 25 students, and just give them an idea of what a day in the life is like. And I think that says a lot about what Jackie was saying about how strong our BC alumni network is. But specifically, one person I met on the trip was named Peter Bell, class of 1986 at BC, and he runs a venture capital firm called Amity Ventures out in California. That summer, I had the privilege of interning for him after many phone calls with him, and that's kind of what I decided that I want to do with my career. And that's kind of how I shifted my mindset from trying to do something that I wasn't necessarily happy with to trying to work in venture capital. And that showed me a lot about what I want to do after I graduate. And so then that experience was great. And now Peter is a great mentor of mine. And I think that story just really shows that BC alumni are there to help BC students, and that when you're at BC, using your title of student, regardless of if you're reaching out to an alumni or just any person in the workforce, is a super powerful thing that definitely you should take advantage of.
Yeah, exactly what Joy said. I remember going on a panel my sophomore year, or going to a panel through the Lynch School, and there were like 5 people on the panel talking about what they did with their applied psych majors, and every single one of them got their jobs because they knew someone at BC. And I just feel so secure that I'm going to have a job after I graduate. And I remember for one of my classes, I had to shadow any social worker, and I decided to use a career service offered to BC students called Eagle Exchange, where you can reach out to people who graduated from BC. And so I met up with this social worker. She allowed me to visit her at work and interview her. And people really, like Joy said, will take time out of their day to talk to BC students. And I think the alumni network is honestly something that really drew me to BC.
Great. All right. So again, love all these questions coming in. I'm like reading them. They're absolutely amazing. You're really like trying to test me here on how I can compress this into an hour or so. So I'm going to try to combine these two. And again, anyone can answer these. But I love these two questions. So maybe we can get a few answers from this. But what makes BC different from other schools in the Boston area? Great question. And also, why did you choose BC? I'll get us started on this. Don't you worry. All right, guys. So when I was in high school, I really loved Boston. I thought it was a great city, but I really wanted a campus, actually. So I am guilty of not doing enough research on Boston College, but my parents said, let's just put Boston College on the list and see what happens. So we came to BC and we started seeing buildings named St. Ignatius and St. Mary's. And I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, like these are such interesting names, especially because I didn't have a religious upbringing. And my dad, I kid you not, whips out his phone, looks up Boston College on Google and says out loud, oh my God, we're standing at a Jesuit Catholic university. So the bar was kind of on the floor for my family and I when it came to Boston College. We were kind of like, oh no, like, but we're here anyway, so might as well just, take advantage of it. As you can tell, B-Joy's background, the campus is gorgeous. So I was really happy to kind of be there in the moment. Yes, thank you, B-Joy. And to my family's surprise, Boston College was actually the only school that my parents and I all equally loved. And I think a lot of it had to do with the people. One thing that I really enjoyed hearing was that at BC, volunteering is not mandatory at all. However, over 85% of students volunteer in some way, shape, or form every single year. And I think that that really speaks to the environment that you're going to be a part of. Additionally, that liberal arts education tied with the idea that you're literally right near the city, I thought was great. And obviously the students were just something that I've never seen before. The students were so caring and so sweet, and you can tell that they took academics really seriously. So that's kind of what sold me on Boston College. If anyone else would like to give their story as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about what sets BC apart from other Boston schools, because like Jackie, I kind of immediately fell in love with going to college in Boston, but I wasn't really sure what the differences were between all the schools here. So one thing that really stood out for me was BC's school spirit, and especially when it comes to like football games and stuff. A lot of schools in the Northeast don't really have like the quintessential college football game experience, and BC offered that, but it didn't make it like its whole character. So my dad went to Florida State, and he kept telling me how fun those games were, and I knew that I really wanted to have that like school spirit surrounded by fans, and also just have like people not necessarily be so spread apart in like a city environment. I feel like since most of us live on campus, it does feel super close knit. So I think that's what kind of sets BC apart. Since we are not directly in the city, we have more space to do that.
I can also touch a little bit on why I chose BC. So when I came to campus to visit, I went to an event called ALC Showdown the night of my trip in Boston. And ALC Showdown is one of our best traditions on campus. Unfortunately, Bella has never experienced it, but she will get to do that this April. It's a tradition where all of our dance organizations come out and compete against each other for just the title of best dance group on campus that year. And I think it's just a super fun way to see that BC students care so much more about their friends than they do the academics. Obviously, academics are certainly a priority, but they're also there to support their friends and in whatever stuff they're doing, whether that's a cappella, dancing, whether that's service, really anything. And that event just showed me that, wow, like 8,000 people of our undergraduate population are taking the time out of their Saturday night to watch their friends perform in dance organizations. Some people don't even know anyone in these dance groups. And I think that's just kind of the energy that I wanted. And that's why I ended up choosing BC.
Showdown is such an amazing event on campus, Bella. I cannot wait for you to experience it this year. Everyone misses it so much, so it's going to be great. All right, Professor Wesner, I actually have a question for you. I think that transitioning from high school to college is a big jump for a lot of people. Can you kind of tell a difference between a high school student and a BC student? Like, do you see that kind of difference or the transition when you kind of talk to freshmen or even sophomores at BC?
I definitely, that's a great question, Jackie. And I think that, so when I teach a class, right, and I do teach a couple of classes because seniors get better pick times, right? So they choose their courses first. But I often have classes where I have a range, freshmen through seniors. And it's a very kind of unique and fun experience to teach because you can almost see, the difference physically because we grow so much between, 18 and 22, and some of the boys, I'm not mentioning be Joy or anything, but some of the boys come in and they look like, they're 15, they're not shaving yet, and then they leave and they have beards and, but everyone's bright, right, and super capable. So there wouldn't be, but seniors have more confidence maybe, and of course they know how to study, they read more efficiently, they're probably more comfortable speaking in class, but you cannot underestimate even the freshmen or sophomores because they prepare and they're engaged people, right? They showed this and demonstrated this in high school, and so you definitely see the maturation though, and even maybe the questions that they would ask during office hours would be different because maturation is so robust during college, right? We really are transformed. I mean, if the seniors on this call with us think about when you were freshmen, you in some ways wouldn't recognize yourself, you're the same person, but you've grown so much and you are more poised and confident and everything. But I'd say, it's a fun part of the university. And then to maybe teach a student twice where you met them as freshmen and then you see them as seniors going out into the real world, with a job, confident, well prepared, and committed to doing some great stuff. It's really such a pleasure. But I think the melting pot works well because I think our seniors really look out for the freshmen, and juniors look out for sophomores. And I think there's really a collegial, relationship on campus, and the ideas, some of you addressed it really well earlier about competition. I don't see it. A student's absent and all the other ones are grabbing handouts for the students that are sick, or a few have had COVID, not too many this year, but, oh, let's make sure we get the handouts for so-and-so, and so students are kind and it's not cutthroat. Everybody just, and I've taught thousands, right? They want to do their best, but just because someone else does well doesn't mean you can't do well. And it doesn't mean you don't root for each other. So I just love that. And it brings a kind of joy to the classroom and a spirit that we're in it together, as soon to be fellow alumni.
That was amazing to hear as a professor as well. So thank you so much, Professor Wesner. I can say as a student as well, I definitely see that on our campus. So that's really cool that you get to see that as someone who's not a student at BC right now. I love this next question. If I can get one or two people to answer it, that would be great. It is, where did you find your initiative to become men and women for others as expressed in one of BC's mottos? Was it through community service, academic-based experiences, social interactions, etc.? So I didn't even say this before. So Caroline, kudos to you for doing your research at BC, but another one of our Jesuit mottos is becoming men and women for others. So that is something that's really big amongst the BC population, and it certainly goes into the alumni network as well. So if anyone wants to answer that, the floor is all yours. Yeah, Kirsten, go for it.
Right off the bat, I did not do much volunteering in high school. I just didn't have the opportunities, and that's one of the things that made me really attracted to BC, was because it's the Jesuit part of BC is not so much in the religious aspect as it is in more the reflective and spiritual and growing as a person aspect, which I really liked. And as a freshman, first week, I joined the FYP, which is why am I blanking on what that is an acronym for? It's this first year service It's first year service program. And so once a week I would go to an elementary school and tutor this kid for the whole year, freshman year. And then we had a reflection for 1 week. For one night, once a week in like these little families. And I had so much fun with it. And then I went on to do BC Bigs, which you might have heard. It's like big brothers and big sisters. So I have a little sister, boys have like little brothers, and you also meet up with them for like an hour once a week. And it's usually at an elementary school that's in more of like a low income or like less privileged neighborhood that's sort of around BC. But there are so many volunteering opportunities at BC specifically. I think that's how I feel like that my character has been built.
I can also speak to that. So freshman year, I decided I was just joining a bunch of clubs to like meet people, and I randomly decided to join APA, which is a spring break service immersion trip. So we had weekly meetings up until spring break in March, or about bi-weekly meetings every Sunday. And then we were broken up into smaller groups and sent on service trips in the Appalachia region, or just like service sites. Mine was actually in Lansing, Michigan, which is not in the Appalachia region, but that was kind of a unique experience. But for me, that experience enabled me to like grow really close to my senior trip leader and also my junior trip leader, as well as like the rest of my 8 other group members. So the service part was really meaningful, but even more so, the reflection we engaged in each night on like different issues of social justice and just getting to know each other really attracted me to the idea of service, and kind of in a way like getting on the same level as people and meeting them where you are and just being present with them, which is something that Boston College really preaches, and something I have taken in from my BC education, I would say. And that's kind of what encouraged me to like get involved with more service. For example, this semester I'm taking a Pulse elective, which Pulse is like a combination of philosophy and theology, where you have a service requirement along with your class. And that class has allowed me to engage in really meaningful reflection, as well as build an awesome relationship with the girl I'm tutoring. So I love service.
Perfect. Thanks, Bella. All right, so I'm going to ask one last question for this panel. I'm going to ask that all of our students participate in this one. You can give like a maybe 30-second answer to this, but it is, because we're talking about academics, what is your favorite class that you've taken so far at BC? I know that we've taken a lot, so I'll give you guys a little bit of time to think. I can speak to mine. It has been my favorite class. Let me say that every class at BC that I've taken, I've loved. I think that the professors have done a great job. Again, I've not had Professor Wesner, but I have heard nothing but amazing things about Professor Wesner. Everyone talks about him on campus, so he's a very big name. You should feel honored to be on this panel with him. But my favorite class was part of our social science core. It fulfilled half the social science core, and it was called How to Rule the World, Introduction to Political Theory. And it was taught by Professor Bartlett. It had 120 students, but do not underestimate this professor. He knew how to command a room, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And we studied Machiavelli all the way to Cyrus the Great, and it was just a really, really interesting class. And as Bijoy mentioned earlier, if you're in a very large class, you do get those mini discussion groups. So my discussion group was around 15 students. We met once a week, and we just caught up on everything with the teacher's assistant, and we discussed what went on in the week, so then we were all on the same page for the next week. But it was just a great opportunity to be in that class, learn from that professor, and also meet people from all 4 grades. So that one, hands down for me, was the best course I've taken at BC.
I can go next. So I've already mentioned Professor Wesner's business law class, Tech Trek West, but I'll mention another one of my favorites. I'm actually a TA for this class right now. It's called Managing Diversity. I think at BC, we focus a lot on being men and women for and with others. And as we mentioned, that whole motto really comes into service. But I think another thing we focus on is diversity and inclusion. And this class really taught me how to use my knowledge around diversity and inclusion and apply it in a business setting. And so we would, in this class, look at case studies and really analyze like what went wrong in a certain situation and what went right and what could have gone better. So Professor Angela Clark, who actually worked at Fidelity and now is working at Robinhood, teaches the class as like something extra that she wanted to do because she went to BC 20 years ago and loved it. So she wanted to come back and teach this class. And so I think the best thing that I've learned through that class and through some of my other interactions is this quote, and this is something that I'll just leave you all with. Diversity is going to a party, inclusion is being asked to dance, and belonging is dancing like nobody's watching. And I definitely feel like I can dance my heart out at BC.
That was awesome, B-Joy. My favorite class that I've taken at BC is probably Introduction to Social Work, which is actually a graduate course. I've taken 2 so far, so it's actually quite easy to get into graduate level courses. But Introduction to Social Work is something I took kind of on a whim just because it fulfilled something in my sociology major, and I ended up falling in love with it. And I loved my professor. And like I mentioned before, we had to do a project with the current social workers. So I was able to connect with someone and kind of shadow them. And that really made me realize what I want to do with my applied psych major. So junior year, I actually applied to a early admit master's program in the Lynch School for mental health counseling. So I was accepted, and I will be at BC for another 2 years for my grad degree, and I'm so excited. So I think just taking classes that you might not necessarily find yourself enjoying that much, or maybe you're just taking it to fulfill something, like can really change your career path. And I'm really glad that I took that class.
I can go next. So being a nursing student at BC is a very unique experience because you have a very prescribed curriculum. But my favorite class I've taken so far would have to be Health Assessment Lab, which you take first semester sophomore year as a nursing student. And you get to go into our simulation labs and learn how to take like vital signs and do a head-to-toe assessment. And so your first year at BC, you spend the entire year learning anatomy and physiology. But then sophomore year, you come in and you get to purchase your stethoscope and like perform these skills on your peers. And it's just really awesome because it's when you start feeling like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to be a nurse. So that's just a very amazing experience. And yeah, one of my favorite classes at BC.
I think I'm last. My favorite class at BC was Christianity and Hinduism and Dialogue. I took it to fulfill my theology core. You have to take 2 classes. One of them is more of like a textual based class. So you can take something like Engaging Catholicism. And then the other one, you have to take more of like an integrated religions class. And that was this. And I took it with Professor Milroy. Highly recommend. I feel like this woman changed my life. She was amazing. Unfortunately, it was over Zoom last year. So I feel like I didn't fully benefit. Like I didn't get the full benefits of if this was in person, but she completely cared about her students. It was amazing, amazing. But I found it so interesting because we are so Western centric, and to learn about a religion that is not Christianity or Catholicism is just so interesting. And to put it against that religion that we like know so well here in America was super, super interesting. And honestly, she made me, because of that class, I went to church at BC just for fun for a couple of times. I had never been to church. So honestly, life-changing class.
Very nice. And also I took that class as well with Professor Milroy, and I completely agree. She's absolutely fantastic. So if you come to BC, definitely take her class if you're interested in that as well. I want to thank all of my panelists for taking time out of their Wednesday night to do this. And I also want to thank all of you who are watching tonight. If you like this panel and you're interested in joining, again, we have one again next week, next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be about student clubs, organizations, and social life at BC. Do not let the conversation end here, especially because we couldn't get to all of your questions tonight. If you look at all of our names on Zoom right now, you do see our emails. Feel free to reach out to us. We would all be so happy to answer your questions. But besides that, I hope you all have a wonderful night. And thank you so much again for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.